What's going, everybody? Today we're gonna be doing these. I'm gonna be using some fake leather for the rest of the video. I'll just call it leather, but that's what it is, from Amazon, and some water soluble stabilizer to use it like how you would use to make patches. Now I am gonna have this whole design on my website if you're looking to buy. It's gonna be the EMB file, so you could tweak the Santa, the lettering, you know, the fonts, put in your own fonts, change the thickness of the satin, all that stuff, just because I think it'd be a easier way to just give you guys the EMB file instead of trying to see what part to make DST and another part customizable. So just make sure that your software does take EMB files. If not, shoot me a message, an email, and we'll sort that out. But if you're not interested in buying, no problem at all. That's why I'm doing this tutorial. If you're able to do something on your software similar to this, then that's cool too. So let's get into the details. What's gonna go on between hooping the leather and then transferring that over to our water soluble stabilizer, where it's gonna stitch out the satin border, and then you're able to punch that out. We'll get into all those details in just a bit. And if you're new here, consider subscribing, because this is what we do all the time: embroidery, new experiment, hat, 3D puff, all that. So yeah, drop the like for this video as well. I will most likely be repeating the process of how it goes, just because it can get a little confusing, and I just want to make sure that I'm getting my point across, because I am not the best at explanation, especially when it's more than 3 steps, which this whole thing is. I have this because I already did my previous patches. Me being a genius, did it right in the middle instead of somewhere off the side, so now I have this weird piece. But pretty much what I'm gonna be doing is I'm gonna put some Cutaway stabilizer. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna embroider the Santa, and then a running stitch that's gonna help me cut it out. So once the Santa and the name is embroidered, I'm gonna cut along that running stitch, and then there's gonna be a similar running stitch on this thing here once it's hooped as well. And that running stitch is gonna let me know where to put that tag on top of. And then once that's on there, it's gonna do a zigzag to tack it down. And finally the satin, so you're able to just push it out and have clean edges without much cleaning. It was crazy loud in the garage here earlier. I wanted to just get the digitizing done, so it's finished, but we're gonna jump in, look at the details. Again, the most important stuff is just placing our running stitches, having them being different colors, so when it's on the machine, you're able to put stops, gives you time to cut it out, adjust, whatever it is. But I'll show you how I digitize the Santa as well. Like I said, if you have the EMB file, you could put your own design on there, logo, whatever it may be. So let's check it out real quick. These are the previous 3 that I did for this one. We do not need that, just so we could get into the details of this one. So to start off, I digitized the Santa. I worried about everything else later. This was the logo. Again, I'm not gonna dive into digitizing really deep, but if you're looking for tips or just digitizing information, any of my videos that in the thumbnail shows like a screen grab hatch on there, that means I most likely went over digitizing a good bit. So you could check those out if you're just looking for digitizing, kind of like tutorials overall. But I got a real simple Santa here. I like it when they have shadow like this, just gives it a little bit more texture, a little more life, and that's what I did. Usually the shadows, when they're really thin and small like this, they're perfect with satin. So that's pretty much what I did. I digitized all of these satin shadows. So I started with the white, making this gray just because it's a little bit darker. I think I jumped to the red, so I'm doing this little shadow here like burgundy, so darker red, and then the red. And then everything else was just a matter of putting everything in the correct order, so you avoid a bunch of trims, color changes. There's still a few in there, but it definitely stitched out nice and smooth. As you can see here, your shadows are all gonna be gray. Satins, real quick, the face. So the shadows were satins, and then the fills were all tatamis. And of course, just your black outlines and filling in some of the details. And that's pretty much it. So I did this guy, put him in here, and then I have a built-in font. Well, I use the built-in font called Poetic Script. Looks really cool. For this one, we're gonna change the name since we already used those other ones, just to switch it up a little bit. It's not gonna be purple, but again, everything just needs to be, or it helps if everything is a different color. Again, to add those stops that lets you do all the details. So once this guy is embroidered, oh, say Nick, and then the name is embroidered, then we're gonna do a running stitch. So we have this blue running stitch below, right in the middle of that satin. So when that one stitches out, you put a pause, and that's when you're able to cut it out. And then the name. And then here, I forgot to mention earlier, but so there's not a bunch of like thread in the back of your tag. At this point, when it's about to do this running stitch here, we're gonna add another piece of that leather to the back, so that when it does this running stitch, it kind of closes the whole tag and it looks nice on both sides instead of having all that stitching and then looking ugly. So we're gonna stick another piece down under there. It's gonna do this running stitch, and once that one is done, we're gonna cut it out. Actually, this one's a little different. I'm just gonna copy and paste that same running stitch but a different color. So let's just pick this one. So this one is gonna be embroidered on the water soluble stabilizer, and it's gonna let us know where to place the cut up tag. I don't have any adhesive spray, but if you do at this point, that helps a lot. You spray it and it stays right there where you've centered it. So it's a little difficult for me, but if you have it, it works way better. So once you got it on there, it's gonna come and do the satin. Now from those, I noticed that my satin had to be a little bit thicker, so I'm gonna do it like this. And I'm also gonna be doing a, let's leave that center run and then a zigzag, so that it really grabs all of the edges of the tag, because when you're trying to place it perfectly on these running edges, it's pretty hard. And once the machine starts, if it's not adhered nicely, it will shift a little bit, and then that's when you get an issue of like corners sticking out a little bit, or maybe a little gap between the border and the leather. So this one's gonna be a thicker satin with a zigzag to just get everything down. And honestly, that's about it once that is done. So here's how it's looking so far. So once that is done, the last thing is gonna be that little hole, the eyelet, that you could just puncture through, literally with whatever you can, just so you could fit in your ribbon, your thread, cord, whatever it is, to hang it as an ornament or as a gift. I don't know what you could use it for, but that's all on you. And that's pretty much it. Here are the dimensions. Height 2.28, so almost 2.3 in height, and then 5.38, almost 5.4 in width. Let me go ahead, center this, and we're ready to export it and get to hooping. So I had a stack of 3 that I did at the same time, and this is the one that I was mentioning that a little bit of the leather sticks out. I'm not sure if it was on me because I didn't cut it right, or because there was some shifting by the time that it finished this third one and then went back up. I don't know. But that's the reason why I made that satin, and I put that zigzag to make sure that it gets everything the way it should. I used this hoop for the one that I did 3. So if you're doing a bunch at a time, a bigger hoop is much better. This is my 8x9 Mighty hoop. And if you're interested in getting any, I have a link in the description for free shipping. TK Stitch 25 at checkout. But all right, for now, I gotta use this wonky piece and make sure that it hoops correctly so Santa doesn't shift. I'm using a piece of 2.5 ounce Cutaway. Put this here. So I'm gonna try to hoop a little bit of this top part. Obviously it's gonna be flying off here. I might just tape that down. Okay, there we go. Good enough, good enough. I'm gonna add a little bit of tape here, a little bit of tape right here. You guys know I don't shy away from my tape. It's one of those things that is like not necessarily embroidery related, but for me, a staple. Very important part here is choosing the colors, putting the stops. So the shading of the beard, that's gonna be 7. Then it's gonna do the face, that's 11 for the tan color, and then it's gonna do white, that's number 4 for me. The back of the mouth, that's black. Then it's gonna do the burgundy for the shading of his hat, and then white for the hat and his tongue. We're gonna do his eyeballs black, inside his eyeballs white, cheeks pink, and then the overall outline black again. And when we get to the name, we're gonna do that green, but we're gonna add a stop there. So we're gonna do 13 with the stop. Yeah, and the stop here hasn't done the running stitch, but I want that so that I could put the other layer of leather underneath, and then it's gonna do the running stitch. It's also gonna be 13 green, another stop, because after this one we're gonna cut it out, and then it's gonna go onto the water soluble stabilizer. It's gonna do the first running stitch. That's gonna let us know where to place the tag. Another stop right there, 13, and then finally just the satin to finish it off. Looks like it's gonna hit the tape a little bit. I don't really care. I'm gonna take the tape off as soon as it's done doing the Santa. That's kind of like when I need the registration to be on point. but it's ready to go. Okay, so we have that stop after the name. Let me take this tape off. Nothing should have shifted, I hope. And I have a big enough piece here that I know it's gonna get covered. So again, here's the good side of the leather. It's gonna be facing down. I'm just gonna float that under there, and then let's run that running stitch. We got another stop. We're done here, at least with this one. Let's go ahead and remove this. This thing gets stuck in here. Now we're gonna cut as close as possible to that running stitch. Even if you cut into the running stitch, it's fine. It's all gonna get covered by that zigzag and then the satin. But let's see how this turns out, just cutting really close to it without actually cutting it. Look at that. Looking really nice. Let's get that junk out of here. And this junk over here, probably gonna need it pretty tight. I haven't used this water soluble stabilizer in forever. Look at it, it's dirty. It's just been up on the wall. Let me make this a little bit tighter. Once we place this, you guys know what's next. That's right, a running stitch. After this running stitch, of course, another stop. What I like to do is fast forward to where it's gonna start stitching out. So I don't have this here when the machine is still gonna make those jerky movements and then shift this all over, especially since I'm not using any adhesive. So I'm gonna center this as close as possible to the lines. And then I'm gonna click and hold the green button for me, and that gives you this really slow stitching speed. Just to make sure that everything's getting caught. Now that looks way off. I'm gonna go ahead and stop it. I'm not gonna do a tie in, tie out. This thing definitely shifted on that first stitch. Look at all this. I'm not sure you guys can see, but it's way off, way off. Again, if I had that dang spray, a dang adhesive spray. All right, I had to unstitch a bit of it, but should be worth it. All right, here's looking much better. Not sure why it shifted so much. It really got away from me. Let's go ahead, hit green, hold it. There we go. Let it go. Right on it, perfect. I'm just stopping it so you guys can see. This time around the running stitch was right on the edge, and now it's doing a zigzag that's gonna cover the outside of the patch. And yeah, just hold everything down before it does the actual satin. it is. Looking smoking. Little dark here, but let's check it out over there. By the way, this is the brand is Soluble, like the heavy duty stabilizer. Don't really use it much. I've had this for over a year at least. But finally found a really good use. But check it out. Once it's out of there, you can just rip it out. And look at those edges. Here's the front, and in the back, of course, you still have your water-soluble stabilizer. Could be a little tricky to get this out. Let me stab it. There it is. Now, I know I would do a horrible job trying to make this hole right here, but if you have a hole punch, that's perfect. Or if not, you could just stab it with anything sharp. Just so you get your thread in there, your ribbon, whatever it is, you're gonna be hanging with it. Here they are. These are about the darnest things I've ever done. Really happy with the way this experiment played out. Again, I had never used that water-soluble stabilizer like a patch making tool. I was kind of scared that it wasn't strong enough, and when it was doing the satin, it was just gonna jam up or, you know, do something crazy, but it didn't. So we did it. Successful day. Again, I will have the EMB file for sale. The EMB file is pretty much the file that you could use with your digitizing software. So you do need a digitizing software, and I'm thinking if you don't have one and you might just need a finished DST file or any other file that your machine runs, shoot me an email. I'm sure we can work it out, and I'll make a listing or something else that's made for you and your machine. Let's call it here. Drop the like and sub if you liked today's projects, and to be in the loop with all the projects we do in the future. Appreciate you guys for watching. That's it for me. Deuces.